So by now we've covered all the basic configurations and settings required to get Fortapay up and running, as well as covering all the customizations that you can do to d- to best use Fortapay for your situation, including all the different pages that we make available and features and customizations. Now we're going to get into how to hook up Fortapay and automate our collections in Infusionsoft. So with Infusionsoft, there's any number of different ways we could approach doing this. However, I'm just going to cover one, and it's really kind of the best preferred approach, but certainly not the only approach. There, you could go about this any number of different ways. I like to use campaigns. So if you've purchased our campaign add-on, you'll have these you'll have these 7 campaigns that cover different functionalities that you may want to integrate with Fortapay. Not all of them are maybe necessary in every circumstance, but let's cover some of the different things that we would want to integrate and do. The first one of those might be onboarding. So if you're getting new customers and you want them to set up an account in Fortapay and log in and set up a password, this campaign that we've created will help you do that. And you can send out their information where they can create their passwords, or you can have the system assign that. It's just a simple campaign that helps customers get access to their billing portal. It's not necessarily necessary. You can use Fortapay without requiring customers to create accounts. By nature of having an account in Infusionsoft, they automatically have access to their account information in Fortapay. And as I mentioned previously, we could use some of these Infusionsoft links to log people in automatically to their billing portal without ever having to actually remember a username or password. But this is a campaign that would help you with onboarding. The next function that I think is useful is the expired or expiring cards. So you may want to have a system or some process in place to deal with credit cards that might be expiring. This is particularly important if you have memberships or subscriptions or payment plans where you have future charges that are scheduled and cards may go bad. So this is another function that you could use, although maybe not in all scenarios. So something to deal with expired cards, and that can integrate right with Fortapay. Also, with that, we could have a campaign that dealt with failed auto charges. So this would be things that would maybe a subscription and it failed for any number of reasons. It could be expired card, it could be a change or bad billing address, could be insufficient funds in the account. So we can automate our follow up on those failed auto charges with a simple little campaign and using Fortapay. This campaign that we've created allows administrative functions in Fortapay, um, or excuse me, in Infusionsoft to trigger actions in Fortapay. We'll cover, we have separate videos that cover each one of these campaigns in detail, and you're welcome to review those videos, whether you've purchased our campaign add-on or not. You can certainly view them and recreate them, or if you want it done for you and have us drop those in your app, that's available as an add-on. We definitely want a feature or a process or campaign in Infusionsoft to send out notices on unpaid or open invoices. So this is one example I'll dive through in a minute, and we'll go through creating a simple little campaign that could do that. We also might want functionality to send receipts or refund notices, and we have a campaign that's specifically designed to do that. And then finally, one of the nifty features of Fortapay is an upcoming notice of a auto charge. So if you, for example, had annual memberships and maybe they were larger, it might be a good practice to send out a notice before you whacked somebody's card with a large charge that they had forgotten about. So this campaign could be used to send out a notice weeks or months in advance, letting the customer know that they had an upcoming charge and they may want to review or or view their billing information on file that's going to be charged on that. So that's what that campaign is. So these are 4 different functions that you can integrate with Fortapay that will really make your collections and your processes for billing very streamlined. So let's dive into creating a simple campaign to send out a notice of an email. So it'll be similar to our open invoice notice campaign, but we'll start this one from scratch. So I'll give it my name, send invoice. Here we go. Now I just need to start this, and there's a couple ways I could do this. I could use the traditional tag start method, but I'm also going to talk about one of these other ones, this API, because I think that's useful. So I could use either one of these methods to start this little sequence, and I'll drag out a little sequence, and we'll have our, we'll call this send invoice. Okay, so within here, I'll simply want, well, a couple things. If I use a tag to start it, the first thing I want to do is actually remove that tag. And then I also want to send out the invoice. So we'll call this the invoice email. All right, so let's go through how we would set this to run. So in Fortapay, we talked about some of our different billing automation roles. Now this is where this would apply. So in this case, with our initial invoice notice, if I click into edit this rule here, you'll remember I have it set to send within the hour of a new invoice being created that hasn't been paid. Now again, I could apply any filters I wanted to this, but I want to integrate this. We'll start with the API goal. Okay, so I can give this whatever name I really want here with my call name. We'll just call it the initial invoice notice. You can't use spaces or other hyphens or that kind of thing with these calls, but so in this case, we'll use my simple little run together word, and I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to come over here to my API goal, and I'm going to paste that. Now you'll notice this integration name here is also important. So this is going to be the app name of your application. So in this case, my example, KC143, and I've already got that saved here. So I can just simply hit save, and every time there's a new invoice created that hasn't been paid, it will trigger this goal. Fortapay will trigger this campaign to start. And so it'll start our sequence, and then again, we'll talk about the tag scenario in a second, but it will do this, and then it will send out an email. So I had created previously this little email template here, and these are included with our campaigns. We've got a bunch of all this stuff kind of written up for you. But basically, what I need, I can have whatever content I want in this email, but the important thing is going to be the link to Fortapay. And so currently I have it configured, but this is how we would set it up. So this would probably, I would grab a little button or a link, and then I would choose the URL function, and now we'll jump back to Fortapay. Go ahead and save that rule. And now we want to go back to those ever so important Infusionsoft links. Now I just have to determine where I want to send my customer. And since this is an invoice notice, I want to go ahead and just send them to the list of invoices, or I could even send them to the list of any unpaid invoices. And so I'll copy this link. I'll jump back over here, and I'm going to paste that URL. Now, couple bits of very important information in this is to make sure we have our contact merge email and contact ID here, which we do. And then obviously this is my specific Fortapay login. So everything looks good there. So when a customer then gets this email here, they'll see this and they can click to view their invoice. When they do that, they will be automatically sent right to this list of invoices. Now, if I just had the one unpaid invoice, it would just show. If I had a couple unpaid invoices in this case, it would show several of them. And then they can come in here, click Pay Now, and I make it super simple for them to pay either with their current card or add a new card, or as we talked about previously, pay with PayPal. So that's really it for sending out these invoices. And this is doing it with the campaign. So what we have happen, I would make that ready. And every time that that API goal ran, this little campaign would run and they would get an invoice. Now I could set up another little sequence here and do that for my next billing automation rule. So I set up my initial invoice notice. I might want to set up a courtesy reminder or an escalated reminder. And maybe the text of my email would be a little different or a little stronger, saying, hey, we'd appreciate you getting this taken care of, you know. But the functionality as far as creating the links would work the same. How we would trigger it would work the same. We would just set up a different API goal to do that. Now, if we wanted to use a tag, we could certainly do that instead of our API goal. We could do it all the same. However, just be aware that if we're going to use a tag, we want to make sure as a part of our a campaign or a sequence to immediately remove that tag. So in this case, initial. So I've got this initial invoice notification start right here. So I could use this tag to start this campaign. And then over in my rule in Fortapay, instead of using my API goal, I could simply use a tag here, and I could call that my initial invoice notification. Let's see this one right here under start, and I could save it that way. So, but again, as I mentioned, important thing with this, if we're going to use tags, we'll want to make sure and remove that tag that, there it is. Actually, it's this one. Start, and we want to remove that tag right away, because if I don't remove that tag, it's going to apply the tag once, and if I have a future invoice, it will say, oh, we've already had that tag, and it will get ignored. So we definitely want to send out invoices every time there's a new one. So that's an important little gotcha with the tag. So those are two ways to kick off these campaigns, and it's really just that simple as far as sending out invoices to your customers. But as I mentioned, if you've purchased our package of campaigns, pre-done campaigns for you, all of that's already created. You'll just need to come in and configure it. For example, in this open invoice notice, we've got quite a bit more stuff going on. Everything's handled. And we have a separate video that discusses how to set this up, and you can view those videos. So that's sending out invoices.